no further discussion?
Like it's going right now, but what about this?
It's all going.
It's been on there, over there. I need to. That's it. Okay. Do I turn anything on? Sorry.
It's the same. No, it's not. So that was what is it?
How are you doing?
For just audience business, not the public hearing. You can just push the red button, the red square.
Okay, it is now 7:10, and I'll call this meeting to order. Will all please rise for the pledge of allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Heather, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Queen Bars,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks,
Here.
Trustee Ed Hallam,
Here.
Trustee Betsy Harrison,
Here.
Trustee Cindy Simpson,
Here.
Trustee Janice Bryan,
Here.
Trustee Brent McWhorter.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we will continue. The next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda, adding item number 7 under action items, Main Street Bridge Construction Contract Award.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Brent McWhorter and a second by Trustee Cindy Simpson to amend the agenda to add number 7 under the action items, and it will be the Main Street Bridge Construction Contract Award. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sound. And motion carries. Next is the approval of the minutes of the February 24th, 2021 meeting, and I would entertain a motion.
I have a change to the minutes under action and discussion items passed and may subvert. It says trustee made the motion to authorize, and we tabled that discussion, so those have to be stricken. Other than that, I would approve I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 24th, 2021 with the changes.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Brent McWhorter and a second by Trustee Betsy Harrison to approve the minutes of February 24th, 2021 with the changes of the past Mesa Verde. The trustee did not, that item was tabled. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sound. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is audience business. two people signed up to speak. We have Steve Kennedy. Kennedy, okay. If you would approach the podium, give your name and address for the record, and 5 minutes. Go ahead.
May I unmask so you can hear me? Yeah. Thank you. I really want to thank Heather and Marshall for the meeting last night about the bridge contract. And one of the most important things Heather told us was that you hadn't done the contract yet. Well, I guess it's going to happen tonight, right? And last time you approved a contract for the construction manager, correct? And in the construction manager, Heather told us that there's a narrow window of negotiation where we can talk about hours of operation for the construction and that sort of thing, traffic control. And that's what I'd like to talk about right now is traffic control. We were told last night that Foch Street could not be closed due to safety concerns and access of emergency equipment, that sort of thing, and that makes sense. We in the neighborhood have petitioned to have that intersection closed during this time except for construction and emergency, but the marshal convinced us last night that that would be hard to enforce and that therefore that intersection is going to remain open. So that intersection is going to be the de facto Main and Grand. Now, they say that the detour is going to be supposed to go around and go around Montezuma, but the marshal told us that that's impossible to enforce. You can't keep people from coming through First Street and Foch if it's open. But what we can do under the traffic control thing and I don't know whether that's part of tonight's discussion, but I hope it is, and I hope it is in the future, that the traffic control at Foch and Grand be manned during the day of construction, during the hours of construction. There's a budget for traffic control, and last night none of that was, except for maybe some signage, was talked about. And so I'm hoping that the budget for traffic control can go into that intersection, make sure that there's people there while there's construction going on. And I understand that the park, portion of the park is where the construction equipment is going to be housed, right? Correct? Is that true? I mean, that was the place they told us last night where overnight when they're not using the construction equipment, it's going to be housed in Bower on the park. But anyway, it's got to come through Foch every day. So anyway, I'm lobbying for a man's, somebody with a sign so that they can manage the overflow of traffic that's going to go through that intersection every day for the next 4 months. I hope it's part of the agenda. The other thing that's important is informing the public. There was a good turnout last night, good businesses and the public, but most of the people found out about it through the newspaper, and I understand it's on our Facebook page, but our Facebook page is not as compelling as I think a lot of people would say. To check it every day to see what's going on is really not important. So anyway, tell us what's going on, use the water bills if necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, next on the audience participation sheet is Mark Rosenbaum.
Hello, I'm on 150 East First Street, so I'm Steve's neighbor. I'm just going to tag on with him. First Street's already, I think it's a dangerous place. It's effectively one lane on the east side. We've got kids and dogs, dog walkers all the time walking through. Only one car can pass. So he's standing there in front of Jody's place. Anyway, people come racing down the hill because we took the stop signs out, which I thought was a bad idea. So it's kind of a racetrack shortcut thing that's going to be really obnoxious with this construction going on this summer. And I just hope you guys can do something about it, consider that neighborhood, the impact that we're going to feel. It sounds like the city could care less, and that's the feeling I got from the city the whole time I lived here, so. Maybe you can support us this time, and do something about how to control traffic. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay, and I hope you all understand that during public audience participation, the board can make no decisions during this time. We'll just listen to your concerns. So moving right along on the agenda, then next is the announcements. Heather, do you have any announcements?
I do have a couple. We received 5 bids today for phase 1 of the water treatment plant project. The low bidder did come in at budget. So we're going to take some time. We're going to review the bids, make sure everybody's responsive, maybe check some references, but we'll bring this item to you guys at future meetings. We also were approved for our loan on that project, so you will also see that paperwork and those documents as well. Regarding the meeting last night, some of the feedback was with regard to the businesses, the concern that how will people know that they're open during construction. So this morning I reached out to Ed Rittner, he's the project-based learning coordinator for Mancos schools, and I put him in touch with Patty Russell from the meeting last night. So they're gonna work together to have like the art kids do signage and stuff for businesses and directional arrows and that kind of thing for the businesses on the corner. We received a notice on our community response grant. We were denied that grant.
Oh.
So, yes, so we will, once we get a couple of these other projects up and running and closed out, we'll circle back around to, it's not dead, we'll just circle back around and figure out what our next steps are and are there other funding agencies and stuff available. That's all I have. I don't know if Justin or Terry has anything. No. Okay.
Thanks. Okay, then moving right along, next is the treasurer's report, February's bills and claims, and I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the bills and claims as presented by staff.
I'll second. We have a motion by Cindy Simpson and a second by Denise Bryant to approve the February bills and claims as presented by staff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say sound. Okay, motion carries. Moving right along then is the committee reports, the Region 9.
I think Rachel might have something like that.
Actually, yeah, I don't really have anything. There hasn't been any board meetings or anything.
And the next one is CDOT, CPR.
Next meeting will be April 8th.
Okay, moving right along then to the action and discussion items. The first item, number 1, is the public hearing, the transfer of the retail marijuana establishment license for Willow North Inc., DBA The Bud Farm, to the Culture Family LLC. Do you want to introduce us and then we'll go to public hearing? Or?
Sure. I don't know if anybody signed up to speak during the public hearing. Okay.
For the public hearing.
Okay.
Is there anybody that wanted to speak on the public hearing before we move on? Okay.
Willow North, or the Bud Farm, we know them as the Bud Farm, they are selling, or in the process of selling the business to the Culture Family. We do have all of the paperwork. The new owners have passed all of the background checks. Our code does require a public hearing, so that's the reason for tonight. I also have heard back from the state that they've conducted their preliminary, it's very involved, but they've conducted a preliminary investigation. They have no issues. However, if you are inclined to approve it, I'm asking that you make it conditional upon final state approval. So, but no changes to the building, just strictly a transfer of ownership.
Okay. And I will open the public hearing. It is 7:24. Don't have anybody signed up to speak for the public hearing, so I will close the public hearing and open it up to the board. So I'll start with you, Ed. Any comments or questions?
No, I have no issues with the transfer.
Betsy?
I think it's fine as long as, state says it's fine.
Cindy?
Same.
Denise?
I have no problem with the transfer, as long, depending the state's approval.
Grant?
Okay.
No issue.
Good.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the transfer of ownership from Willow North LLC, DBA The Bud Farm, to the Butler Family LLC, conditional upon the approval from the State of Colorado Marijuana Licensing Division.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Grant McWhorter and a second by trustee Betsy Harrison to approve the transfer of ownership from Willow North LLC, DBA, The Bud Farm, to the Culture Family LLC, conditional upon approval from the State of Colorado Marijuana Licensing Division. Erin, would you call the vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Betsy Harrison.
Aye.
Trustee Ed Hallam.
Aye.
Trustee Cindy Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Janice Bryan.
Aye.
Trustee Brent McWhorter.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. So, welcome to
Is that the Texas crowd then? Is that the Texas crowd?
Thank you all for attending and welcome to our town.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here this year.
Good luck.
That's Lee about that. You want to say goodbye?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Montezuma County relocation guide.
Yes, Maggie's here, and I did include some information in your packet for you guys as well, but Maggie's here to do her presentation for you guys on the new relocation guide they're proposing.
Okay, I think this time you have all the paperwork, and this will be easier, I can see. Okay, we're the tri-chamber, which is Mancos, Dolores, and Cortez, and getting some funding from Region 9 to do a relocation guide. Just basically started. The reason for the relocation guide, to attract more diverse businesses. Mancos already has a plan in place to bring businesses from outside and new businesses in. The relocation guide adds to that. It gives you something you can promote the business with. It also gives you a way to promote your own programs and Mancos in this guide. The guide is going to cover Montezuma County, but there's going to be a Dolores section, Mancos section, Cortez section, and we really want to highlight each individual town as they're very unique. We're not Cortez. We have a different personality. We want to have this guide, so it's one of the things that's been on discussion for quite a few years. Mancos is one of the few areas, Montezuma County actually, that has no relocation guide. Durango has one, Pagosa has one, small towns all over Colorado, southwest Colorado have them. And when people would contact me and ask for a relocation guide, I had a 2-sheet typed thing with a little bit of information. It wasn't really very robust. And we really want to create a guide that's going to be robust. It's going to feature the towns. It's going to talk about the business opportunities. It's going to discuss the schools. And this is really leaning towards the economic development of our community. Now, one of the things that I get questioned about whenever I talk about these things is people go, we don't want people from other places moving here. That is, we have a great town, but I'm also going to bounce this back to Laura Lewis's, Marshino's presentation last time, in which she talked about our population. And our lack of jobs and our 58 to 60% retirement community. If we want to continue, we have a beautiful school, it's newly remodeled. If we want to continue to have it a robust school system, we need young families moving in. And one of the things we really want to aim at with the relocation guide is also to encourage people to come back to Mancos. All those people who graduated in the last 2 decades have moved away to Denver, they've gone to college, they're living all over the country, and now people are looking towards home. What can we tell them about Mancos? What has changed? What is good? Our school system, is it good? Do they want to bring their children back here? Do they want to open their business here? What sort of regulations do we have? How business friendly is Mancos if they decide? Mancos has a huge percentage of small in-home businesses. We'd love to see that grow, and it's a good market. If people can travel or work remotely, that brings the money from outside into our community. It's a complete bonus. So we're looking at it as something that is a reference toolkit. It will give information to anybody who's looking to move to the area or move a business into the area about what sort of options we have. We have, you can look through this. This is the short, you should have a short form of it. We're going to have the demographics of the county. We're also going to have a, like I said, specific Mancos page with the demographics. I would like to talk about our school system. It has a high graduation rate, which higher than the state average, I believe. We have a lot of kids that do graduate, they're going on to college, and they're prepared to go on to college. Those things are positive to draw them to it. And this, living here. I mean, you can live here and enjoy the 5 minutes you're out in the wilderness, you're in the mountains, you're at Mesa Verde, you're camping, you're biking, you're doing whatever it is you want. Those are all things that we want to promote as part of our lifestyle. We are, this program, we're working with the Tri-Chamber, the 3 chambers, Cortez Retail Enhancement Association, Kelly Kirkpatrick with the Mesa Verde country, and she's going to be helping with getting this. I mean, they get asked questions. People come in for the vacation guide. They get asked questions about a relocation guide all the time. So we would like to develop this into something that can be on various websites. Now, we are going to have a PDF version of this with just the basics done by the end of March. We have a good portion of it already put together. It's just, we have to have it. But a PDF version is difficult. It takes harder to update. People would have to print it out. It's not easy to look at. So what we want to move to is first a flip version of this. I don't know if you've ever seen these. If you look at, I suggest you look at Colorado relocation guides online. They're beautiful. You can flip through them. You can see the pages. It's like a whole magazine online. You can hit a button and click to a website and see that business. There's a lot of good programs like that, but all of this is going to cost us some money. What we have now is enough to set up our PDFs. We want to do a flip guide by this summer, so that we have something to put on our website. On the chamber website, we started a local Montezuma site this summer to promote Montezuma County. It will sit on there. It will sit on the 3 chambers. So this is all about promoting our area and bringing people, letting them know what we have as far as lifestyle and where they might want to live. On this, I'm going to get to the painful part, the sponsorship page. Now, as you see, we have 3 levels of sponsorship. We have a $10,000 sponsorship, a $5,000 sponsorship, and a $3,000 sponsorship. You have the page. You can look at it and see what the different levels talk about, what it covers. What we're hoping, if we end up getting, we're approaching Montezuma County, Dolores, Cortez, and Board of Realtors and a few other things. If we get a good amount of sponsorships, we can also move to a printed version starting in 2022. that's gonna take a lot of money to do the startup, to get the magazine ready and published and printed and everything. But I would really like to at least see getting some funding. I know $10,000 is a lot of money, but if you could do 5, if you could do 3, this would be great. We could get our print version, we could pay for our website, for the management of it, for all the different programs we need to get this off the ground. And personally, it's the sooner the better. We're in the perfect position right now where people are looking at coming home, they're looking at moving, they're looking at their retirement city. And like I said, it ties in with Mancos's program to bring businesses to the area. So it's a win-win really for everybody. I'm asking you to take a look at this, see if this is something you would like to do. Sponsorship would also allow you to do an ad. You could include information about the programs that Mancos provides, any information that you want them to know, in addition to what we would already have on our Mancos page. We also have advertising things, but that's another thing for somebody else. And do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Who's doing the Mancos page?
The program, right now, we have the short version of this, the rough version, sitting on the Level Oklahoma website. Susan Lysek from the Doris Chamber is the person who set up that website with input from me, Cortez, although Cortez is going through some changes, so they don't currently have a director. So this is Susan and I. I've also talked to Rachel Marchbanks because of her writing skill and asked her if she can potentially help me a little bit with this. But I'm going to be setting it up with the help of Susan and anyone else, and the input from our other group.
So, hey Maggie, thank you. The only thing I noticed on this one that you put, like some of these statistics are like 2018, and I think, is that?
This is an example of what we were going to do. We were waiting for the census information. This was created before the census information was published. So that's all. This is not the final version. This is the version that we're working with, trying to get sponsors, trying to get some advertisers. We've talked to a few different people about that, and we do have enough to keep moving, but it's going to be, a PDF version. If we get that done, and that's all we do, it's going to be outdated in 6 months. And so we really want to have the funds to be able to continue to, with the flip version, we can make changes rapidly. If something changes, if something happens, if we need to make options, it's going to be something we can handle quickly.
I have another question. So your presentation is you're asking the board to be at one of these sponsor levels?
Yes.
Okay.
And the mileages with the little red car, those will be in the United States.
It's an example. Not like a Dover.
I was like, Dover, Cardiff?
Yeah.
I like these mileages are wrong.
We're a little further to Dover.
This is just supposed to be
Yeah, just a
Example.
show where you get the demographic
Yeah.
and have go here and things like that. This is a
liked
rough
it.
example. I do apologize. I got it.
Yeah.
That's cute.
So maybe just another question. Sponsorship though, you get your name on the sponsor page. $10,000 it's big print, 5,000 is the smaller, and 3,000 is tiny down here. And you mentioned that you said something about an artist. You get free advertising with that 10,000?
Yes. You get,
because it doesn't say that.
no, it doesn't. Like I said, this is our basic presentation. If you sponsorship on any level, you can have an ad.
And what size ad? Would you do a full page?
I think it's a full page, but I do need to double check with Susan because I don't have all the information on that. But you know what, I will make an executive decision since I am the president of the Tri-Chamber. I can say, yes, we will give Mancos a full page because I like you guys.
Well, and it makes sense, it's $900 for a full page, so if we're doing like, if we even did the $3,000 range, you know, getting a full page, it's a good deal.
Rachel keeps raising her hand. Sorry.
Sorry, I just want to make a comment too that since the town is developing a economic development kind of microsite, that it would be handy to link to something like this because one of the sections is going to be kind of a quality of life section. Like not only do you want to start a business here, grow your business here, but also it's a great place to live. So something like this would be helpful as well.
Oh, I think it's wonderful, personally.
I do too. I have a question of Heather. So budgetarily speaking, is there anything we need to, like, do we have a line item that we could utilize for this?
We do now. We're not doing the second round of agency contributions because we were hoping for the community response grant. And now that we got notice that we did not receive that grant. So we do have $10,500 in that line item. I wouldn't, sorry Maggie, I wouldn't recommend spending all of it, but we do have some slush in that line item because we were holding that for that grant and we're not going to receive the grant.
So we are going to be applied for other grants.
Yes, we have to research. I don't even know what's available. We have to regroup.
Save some money in that for
yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't spend anything.
To Maggie, is there a dollar amount that you are asking us for, or just?
$10,000. She already said $10,000.
I said that we have 3 sponsorship levels, and I think the town has the ability to make a decision on what they want and what they can afford and how they feel about this. I am not going to twist anybody's arm.
Chicken.
Fred, any comments?
No, I think we have the budget for it. It's just a question of how much do we want to spend. I would thought that through.
Do we need to make a decision tonight? Is that what we're?
So we're wanting to go to by the end of March.
Yeah, I think we should make a decision. I don't think it's a difficult decision.
Is that all? Do you want this to be out by the end of March?
The PDF version will be done by the end of March. It would helpful if I knew now that we had some money coming in, or we could look at going to the flip version, because we don't have the money currently until we get people.
Additional sponsorship.
Yeah, well, people actually committing to sponsorships. We've had a lot of people saying that they're interested in sponsorships and some advertisement, but that hasn't. I'd like a commitment.
So I've got a question here. Did you develop this in-house, or is there a XYZ relocation company out there?
No, we developed it in-house. It was with Dolores Cortez and Mancos Chambers, Korea, Colorado Retail Advancement, and Mesa Verde Country. And so we're each taking a little section of it, and to create this, we don't want to hire an outside person. If we can do it inside, we just.
Okay, I just wanted to check to see if, 25% was going to Ohio or something.
No, we are committed to keeping businesses in Montezuma County in business.
Honestly, I think if we're gonna do this, we should go with the 5,000 sponsor, because I think if we make a commitment into this, it's gonna help other people take the plunge as well to be part of this. I think this is gonna be a big thing for the area. I know when I was on the chamber board in Cortez, we had discussed this previously, and it never really got off the ground. It always was something that would be great, we had it, but nobody ever took the initiative to actually get it done when I was there. And like Laura said in her presentation last meeting, we're gonna have people come here, and people are wanting to move to this area. I know for a fact already, multiple people I've talked to in my business in Cortez have moved to this area already. I've actually had people come up to me and say, hey, thanks for your help when I was looking to move here. So, to have a resource like this and one that's easily updated, because I know when I first started coming to Cortez to open my business there, they had nothing for me. I had to do all the research myself on how to get business licenses, how to do, a sign permit and all that type of stuff. And to have like a one-stop shop of information would be really helpful for people. So that's kind of where I think we should be. Is, I don't, like we said, we don't want to spend all that money that we have in there, but if we make a commitment now of $5,000, they can lord this over Cortez, the county, and everybody else and say, see what Mancos did? And it shows that we're also supporting the businesses in this area by trying to make it where people can, want to move back to this area. We want a thriving town, and this is one way to start doing that.
So do you want to make that in the motion?
Yeah, I move we choose the $5,000 sponsorship for the relocation guide.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Grant McWhorter and a second by trustee Ed Allen to do the $5,000 sponsorship. Is there any further discussion? Heather, can you call the vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Betsy Harrison.
Aye.
Trustee Janice Bryan.
Aye.
Trustee Brent McWhorter.
Aye.
Trustee Cindy Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Ed Helm.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
Looks great.
This is really good.
Okay. So now, Joe.
What's that?
The competition now.
I'm just saying.
We're feeling generous.
Okay.
Well, it's got my vote, but there are two other guys.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do the same thing I just said to you.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the Pass the Race of Verde. Heather.
Yes, so James Dietrich is here from Montezuma County. And this item was tabled from our last meeting, so you have some of it. I also sent you some information that Janice received, so you all have that information. The one thing I do want to say that I didn't have at the last meeting is our cash match over the 5 years would start in 2026. So it wouldn't start next year, it would start in 2026 and go for 5 years from there. So that I did not have at the last meeting. And then I'm going to turn it over to James because he has been amazing on this project. In case anybody has any questions, or I'm sure he has some info for you.
One thing I have for the town board is just a little extra information. I'll just, Betsy, if you want to take one and pass it on.
Sure. Thanks, James.
Let me get the one that I'm supposed to have.
Yeah, get your notes.
I'll take anyone.
You know what, I think I already have it in there, but I think I know this is good enough. I can probably just go and look at you.
So James, before you start though, would you give your name and address for the record, please?
Oh,
And
certainly.
you can take the mask off so we can understand.
Okay, my name is James Dietrich. I live at 632 Baker Avenue, Cortez, Colorado. And I think I've met most of you at one point through a variety of different ways. But again, this has been a long project. So one thing I thought I might do today is for the benefit of for the folks that may have not been here since the very beginning of all this, I just kind of take everybody through what I recall to be, kind of the timeline of the project and everything. You can read through this pamphlet that I gave you. The first couple pages here are taken out of the grant application that I wrote up. And basically, the grant application is asking for some background on the project, and so this does a pretty good job of it right here. But I'll kind of verbally kind of go through it with everybody. The first time I recall about this project really coming to the county was back in 2003. and it was promulgated by the city of Cortez. They came to the county and said, hey, we think it'd be great to get a trail that connects Cortez with Mesa Verde. And, you know, at the time, the county said, yeah, you know, we like that idea conceptually, and it's a good idea. But at the time, I just don't think the county really kind of had a broader vision on what we were looking at. So the county really wasn't that interested at the very, very start. I think the city did apply for a grant, a planning grant, which I don't believe they were successful at. And at that point, the project kind of went dormant for a while. And then the next time I really recall this kind of coming about was about 2012. And really what happened in 2012, the town of Mancos actually worked on a trails plan. Within that trails plan, it identified the paths of Mesa Verde, essentially the route on the Mancos side, which is pretty cool because the county has no trail plan whatsoever. It's not in our comp plan, it's not in our land use code. We've just essentially done no trail planning at all. So this is pretty cool. You guys have got more trails planned in the county than the county has anywhere in the county. And you know, it's pretty well developed too. And if you look at some of the plans, I'll pull out a page. This is the back of this, but I'll this page right here will be page 20 of the trail plan. Kind of shows what the overall concept is. This is a good concept. I mean, it really connects Mesa Verde with the town of Mancos, which is obviously what we're here to talk about tonight. But it also really kind of lays out a very aggressive trail plan elsewhere within the whole Mancos area. So you guys got a pretty good trail plan put together. So, you know, this is in 2012. A couple years after that, in 2014, or 2013, I guess it was, the county was invited to a meeting that was held. It was facilitated by Ms. Rebecca Smolsky. And I'm not really sure who called that meeting together, but at the time, the city, Cortez was present, the town of Mancos was present, and the county was brought in on that too. And so, you know, at that time, the county was made aware of the trails plan that Mancos had already put together. By that time, the city of Cortez had already kind of pulled together a pretty good idea, a concept on how to get from Cortez to Mesa Verde. So we realized at that point that you know, both plans kind of met in the middle. And of course, you know, the county essentially had, you know, all the land that was in between. The concept was really to try to find a route that was off the highway. You know, we did a lot of survey work on the front end of this project, and that's really what we heard from our citizens. You know, unfortunately, after going through an extensive review process, we just were not able to identify a route that was off the highway. We simply could not get the cooperation plan. That's really what it came down to. So, in the way we went about that is we, you know, through that first meeting, we realized that we needed some planning money to be able to actually get this whole thing off the ground and really move it from a conceptual plan, which you guys have got a great conceptual plan, so it's Cortez, move it from the conceptual world into an actual construction plan. So to accomplish that, we applied at first for a Tiger grant, and we were unsuccessful at the Tiger grant. Within that same year, we also applied for the Transportation Alternatives Grant. That was in 2014. Okay, and so we had an overall planning budget of $500,000 at that time. And so this was a three-way split between Cortez, town of Mancos, and the county. And so the grant amount for that was $400,000, and the local community match was 20%, which was $100,000. So that's where the original split came in, of the 40-40-20. And so, you know, the way that panned out is Mancos was contributing $20,000, the county was contributing $40,000, and the city of Cortez was also contributing $40,000. And what that was to do was to look at Cortez to Mancos, and that was to develop plans for that. Okay, so we're actually done with that portion of it at this point. What we've got out of that is that we've got a 30% level design that's from the Mancos, from Mancos to Mesa Verde. And so that's 30% design level of CDOT standard drawings. And of course, I should say, at this point, everything about this project runs through CDOT. And we're really held to the federal planning laws and regulations because this is essentially a federal project. We took federal money to be able to accomplish that. So we're held to what their standards are. And really what that boils down to is a lot more expense. It's NEPA, it's a lot more very detailed drawings to get it through the CDOT process. Because at the end of this trail will actually be a part of the Southwest Colorado Transportation Network, a CDOT network. It'll be a part of 160. So we've had questions, what happens if CDOT decides to expand 160 and go to 4 lanes? Well, yeah, eventually that can happen, but it doesn't mean the trail goes away because CDOT has adopted that trail as a part of that transportation system. So they will have to accommodate that trail, when and if that highway ever does expand. So I want to kind of make a note of that at this point. So we're at the 30% design level. And what we need to do is get ourselves obviously up to the 100% design level. And so we went to GOCO and we applied for some more grants through GOCO. First grant we applied for was unsuccessful. The second one, however, we landed $193,350. And the overall project budget was $276,500. You'll note that this is a little bit higher match than we're normally used to. This is a 30% match. And so our overall match between the county and the town, we need to provide $83,150. To date, we haven't spent any of that money. And the reason we haven't spent any of this money is because while we just received this grant, we're also out there looking for construction dollars, right? So to be able to land the kind of dollars we need for construction, because the original estimates on this for a concrete pathway were in the neighborhood of $13 million. So we knew right away GOCO was not going to be able to come up with those kind of dollars. That puts us back into the federal basket looking for dollars there. So we did go out and investigate some possible alternatives as far as that goes. The FLAP fund, and this is administered by the Federal Highways Administration, and FLAP stands for the Federal Lands Access Program. I'm going to get tongue-tied or something exactly. I'll stumble a little bit here. When we talked to the federal lands folks, they agreed that they thought that this might be a good fit for them. They weren't 100% sure. They came out and did a scoping project. And to get their engineers to come out and do the initial scoping, the county had to commit another $10,000 to be able to get them to come out and do that. At the end of that, they felt like, yeah, we've got a very good project. One of the things that they felt was really, really attractive about this project is the fact that Mesa Verde was a partner and also the mill. And quite frankly, I think that's what landed the project for us, is having Mesa Verde be a partner and to be able to end this, because that's part of the federal lands, the Federal Highways program is providing access to those type of resources. Another thing Federal Lands is trying to do is to provide multimodal options. Okay, so this fit that concept very well also. Okay, so at this point we're down to the flat grant budget, and working with them on that, they told us right off the bat that they didn't have enough funds set aside to be. In fact, they had no funds set aside for this at the time we landed the grant. They gave us a letter that said, congratulations, you landed the grant, but we have no money and we'll let you know. So we waited over a year to find out whether or not we actually got those funds. Sure enough, that funding was reauthorized by Congress, and so sure enough, they had the funding that they could provide. But they're still strapped because they're providing funds for all the national parks in the nation. And so what they wanted to do was scale back our project. And so the engineers that we worked with said, yeah, we can do some value engineering on that. We think that we can bring this in the $5 to $6 million range, but we'll have to give up the concrete on it. And so we'll get you down to nothing but a crusher fine, which is, fine as long as it's ADA accessible. That's the key for meeting our federal obligations on that. CDOT's not happy about it, they want everything to be concrete. But, you know, if we get the crusher fines down, that's the first stage anyway. It's a great base to eventually find concrete for it, which, you know, eventually is kind of a theme to this whole project. So at this point, what we have got is a total project budget of $5,851,030, and that is to construct, or is to actually finalize the design drawings from 30% level up to 100% level, and go out and contract, administer the contracts for all the construction. So this is kind of a unique thing too, and something that we get through the Federal Highways Program that you don't get elsewhere. For all the prior grants, we had to go out and do interviews and find the best consultant and all this kind of stuff. And Federal Highways Access Program, they take care of that for us. So all we have to do is basically manage the reimbursement dollars that come in. So anyway, that's really where we're at this point. So I want to explain a little bit about the matching funds and where we, you know, as the county and, you know, as the town board, I would probably be talking through some of this. So what we've got as far as a matching fund off of that $5,851,000 is about $990,000. That would be a 17.2% match that's required from the local community. Okay, but remember, we've already got the $276,500 total budget that can be applied to that match, and this is where we've got a little bit of a tight time frame. So the Colorado the Beautiful grant, the $276,000, that has to be spent out by June 22nd, or by June 30th of 2022. So we've got a little bit of a tight turnaround on that.
22 or 21?
It says 21 here on.
Did I say 21? So,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. So we have until June 30, 2022 to spend out the Colorado the Beautiful. And I'm sorry if I got a typo in there on that. So that is our time crunch for the moment. And the reason that's a time crunch is because the Federal Highways Administration did not want to start any design until 2024. And remember, the construction is slated for 2026. The reason they don't want to jump ahead on that is they think, well, if something happened with the highway alignment, things could happen that would force us to go back and redesign things that we've already done. So that's why they're trying to push it off until 2 years before they're actually slated for construction. But that causes us a little bit of a problem because, you know, if we can't spend out that full grant for the Colorado the Beautiful before, you know, June 30, 2022, we could lose that money. So I've negotiated with Federal Highways. They've agreed to try to spend all that money out by June 30, 2022. And so that way, that $276,000 can be applied to the $990,000. And that brings our overall community requirement down to $703,000. So that's what we, as a community, between the county and the town, are looking at to be able to land, you know, that remaining $4.7 million and complete this project on the Mancos side. You can look through the flat project budget. So we've got that, that's down there in the, you follow along, it'll be on this page, and it's kind of that shaded area. And there, that's, yeah, I think we've got the correct date on there, that's 6/30/2022 on that one. So as you can see, what they've got lined out is about $700,000 in additional engineering. Then we get down to the actual construction, which is about $3,400,000. So they've got about $1 million put in there for contingency. Currently, we're under contract right now for that dollar figure. So that dollar figure is pretty much set in stone, and we know what we're going to be having to generate, which is that $703,500. So, I'll kind of continue on, because again, this is a project that goes over to the Cortez side also. So on the Cortez side, in the meantime, we've also been able to land a grant through the Multimodal Options Fund. This is a Colorado State grant. And so this brings in $459,270. And so that'll be applied over on the Cortez side. And so what we're looking at over on that side for the local match is $51,000. That had a 10% match on that one, so we were in pretty good shape on that. But the reason I bring that up is that the county is working on the Cortez side as well as the Mancos side. So we're really trying to work with everybody to, we just think this is a great benefit for the community as a whole. And again, I don't expect to see a dollar for dollar return on any of these type of projects. But just like our first presenter was explaining to you about the relocation to Montana County, what we're really trying to do is assemble a really good portfolio of all these amenities that help people to decide on Montana County to be the place to relocate. And I can tell the town board that we're already seeing this happen, in particular with the Hillsborough Trail project out there. We're actually having people that are buying properties around Hillsborough because it's close to that mountain biking. And typically what we're seeing is they tend to be like doctors and lawyers and engineers and stuff like that. People that are going to build a $1 million home, versus, some kind of a low-end stick build, $150,000. So that does translate into money for our community. First of all, you're getting people in that hopefully are bringing a business with them that they can establish. Second thing is, it does seem to be attracting people to building more high-end houses and things of that nature. So as a whole, these kind of projects really do mean a lot to the community. And again, I think we're building a portfolio of a diverse list of amenities that we can offer to the public out there. And again, this does kind of translate into tourism. We are aware that our relationship with Kinder Morgan is on a time frame. And we also understand that the tourism dollars in this community are really important. That is something that is a sector that we need to focus on and try to grow more. And we're trying every other way to grow any other thing that we possibly can. Obviously, you can't rely your whole economy shouldn't rely all on tourism. Okay, so we understand that too, but it is an important piece of it. And we're in direct competition with everybody around us. Durango as well as Moab, and a lot of times we joke around out in the county saying, hey, we're the best thing between Durango and Moab. And sure enough, I think we really are in a lot of ways. And so we just got to build our portfolio up to the point where other people feel that way also. So I think that kind of lays it out where we're at tonight. I know we've had, everybody's kind of scratching their head over what the split is on this. And I think the difficulty really kind of comes in that, we started this off as a three-way split focused on design. And so that's a 40-20 split. Once we got to the point of looking for money for construction, then we really didn't have any guidance on that split at all. And, what I really kind of feel like we ought to do is probably come up with an MOU that really defines how much each party is contributing. And, in a lot of ways, we can look at this and we say, what's fair? Well, probably a 50-50 split seems the most fair. Well, that's not really necessarily what we should be focusing on, because I think in a lot of ways this is a community project, and what we should really be focusing on is how as a community we're going to be able to together, raise the remaining $700,000. We can talk about the split and everything, and I think it's good that we do that. But again, I think this is a community project, and we should focus together on how we can raise that money. What I would leave the town board with is that so far our track record on raising funds is pretty good. We've raised, over $5 million at this point. I think the likelihood of us raising more dollars to be able to bring that $700,000 figure down is pretty high. For one thing, when GoCo commits to a project, and they've already committed to this, they've put $193,000 into it, they don't want to see that money go to waste. So they're going to feel very committed to helping us finish this project off. And I think any of the other federal sources, any other grant sources at this point are going to be feeling a lot the same way. We've already accomplished a ton at this point. And, you know, basically, you know, we've got $4.7 million on the table. We just need to figure out how to raise $700,000 to manage to keep it. And you know, I think we've got a very good shot at doing that. We've got 5 years essentially to do it. And again, you know, it's not slated for construction until 2026. And of course, none of those dollars can be expended until that time. And so we've got all that time to be able to raise this money. And I think we've got a very, very good shot at bringing that dollar figure down considerably. I'm going to guess just off the top of the head, we should be able to cut that at least in half. So anyway, I feel very optimistic at that. And you know, also we have Rachel Markbanks, who is helping the county do grant writing at this point too. So it's not just on me to go out and thank goodness, because I mean, I tell you what, this was a load of work. Although my writing skills have actually improved significantly. So there's always something to be gained out of anything you work on. You've got to look for it. So anyway, I guess I'll leave that with the town board at this point. Have you got any additional questions, things that we can clarify?
What's your time frame on knowing what our decision is?
Well, you know, I think we should make this decision pretty quickly. Right now, the county is on the hook for the whole thing. So if we decide that this is just too much for us, and we want to let the whole thing go, then we want to do that pretty quickly. Just tell them, you know, hey, this is just not something we can afford. However, if we feel like we can move forward with it, then you know, I think we haven't got any pressure as far as when we work out the arrangement with the county on, you know, what percentage each party pays or anything like that. So, and I think there are a lot of ways we can look at this. I mean, it doesn't have to be a 50-50. It could be a 70-30. It could be, you guys want to may want to make the case that the 20% is about all you can afford. And that's fine. We just need to work with the commissioners on that and help them to understand how much the community feels like they can afford. And then, you know, the commissioners will have to make some decisions on their own based off of what they think they can afford also.
So the almost $8 million grant is in play because the county ponied up at one point and said, we'll cover it if nothing else happens.
That's
so
correct.
We're not under any kind of a grant deadline where we're going to screw up the grant, I guess is what my question is.
Yeah, you know, I would say that is mostly correct. I think that the one issue that we've got is that Colorado the Beautiful grant that has to be spent out before June 30, 2022.
Yeah.
So that's the one pinch point that we have on that right now. Because we'd like to be able to use that entire grant budget, the $276,000, to play against that $990,000. And that's what brings it down to the $700,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a pinch point, and we should be cautious of that. You know, we haven't spent any of that money out yet, so we can return that. We don't have to return anything we haven't spent. It's all reimbursable. So,
yeah.
But we should let the state know very soon on that. They've been pretty patient with us up to this point. I've been kind of nagging the state too. Hey, give us a little extra time to make sure we get the feds on this in time.
Yeah.
So to get all these moving pieces in, you know, exactly in the right position has been difficult. I think we have it at this point, but I really had to push Federal Highways Department to commit to getting that money spent out by the time it needs to be spent.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go. In fact, we just signed that contract with them, and the reason we did is because they need to get the pencils on the paper, like pretty much right now.
But what is it, just, you said if we didn't do anything, you said the county might just turn it back, the grant.
Well, that is certainly a possibility, and that would be a commissioner's decision. Right now, all the risk is on the county because we've entered into that contract. You know, and we just see this as a community project, you know, and so it wasn't really a county promulgated project. I mean,
Right. You just took the lead.
so, you know, we're not here to, try to twist the town bank its arm into, helping out this project. we want to be a good partner with the town on this, and hopefully we can all just make it work.
How much, I don't really know even how to ask this question. So the trail starts downtown Mancos, and so we've got X number of linear feet in town, and then it's basically out in the county.
Yeah.
So do we have any kind of a rough figure on how much of what we're gonna pony up would pay for what's in town?
What's in town? Well, I can tell you one thing, if you read the scope of work on this federal grant, it actually ends right at the town limit. So it is basically from the Mesa Verde entrance, what is the first street that?
Monty.
Okay, so if you that street. So that's where those dollars end.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we're still looking at trying to figure out how we're gonna restripe the streets and things like that.
Yeah.
We could have included that in this project. The reason we left that portion out is it just added more dollars to this, and the federal highways felt like they were at the max of what they could possibly fund.
Okay.
So yeah, there's still some steps we need to figure out, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
Is there a time on making a decision whether to go forward or not to go forward?
There's no hard
No,
time.
now that you've signed the contract, it's in place, and we wouldn't do anything until 2026 anyway, so there's some time, breathing room, that's what I'm saying.
I think there's some breathing room, but we are under contract with that, and once they start spending some money out on that, then it's gonna be a lot harder to kind of stop this thing. So I think, we're at a point where we need to make a decision pretty quickly.
Okay.
So James, who is CFL?
I'm sorry?
Who is CFL? You've got, you're under contract with CFL. Who is CFL?
Oh, Central Federal Lands. I'm sorry, those are those acronyms that I get all the time.
So that's the federal agency?
That's correct, yes. They're the Federal Highways Administration, and within the Federal Highways Administration, it gets complicated. They've got other subdivisions. The Central Federal Lands is what the branch that we work through. And they're the ones that provide the design team. They have their own in-house engineers that they'll do the design work. And again, once it goes to Central Federal Lands, that's a fully federal project. They do the whole thing pretty much.
That's great.
Yeah, it is great. I can tell you that, getting this far, it has been unbelievable. The hoops you have to jump through, especially with CDOT, all the permitting and get everything set up. CDOT is a fabulous organization. They're very easy to work with, but you've got to go through the proper process.
They're fighting words around here, James.
Yeah, well, I understand. I fought it the whole way too, and you fight the law and the law wins, and so that's true. But it's all good because CDOT really has been a very good partner in this project.
So we have a history of projects being planned here in town and within a certain time frame, and then that time frame never is held up, and then the cost just skyrocket. Is there any protection in this?
Yeah, there is. The good part about this is it's already under contract, so they've agreed to that dollar amount and what they're going to do for that dollar amount.
Even the CDOT end?
I'm sorry?
Even the CDOT end?
Yeah, that's because they control the CDOT portion of it. CDOT, so basically the federal lands is the top of the hierarchy on that.
Okay.
Well, this is sounding better all the time.
Yeah, I think this is a real draw to our community. And I use trails, and so there's only so many times you can walk around this town, And so to be able to have another trail just from town to get out there would just be fantastic. I think they agree on how much we can afford is basically what you're kind of asking us, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you need to know soon.
We need to know real soon on this, because we don't want to spend any money that we can't get back.
Right.
And in all fairness to our other federal funding partners, we want to let them know as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But I agree, I think and I think the county agrees. I think this has been a shift in the perception within the county. I can tell you when I first got a job at the county, The last thing we wanted was any more lycra-clad mountain bikers, right? I heard that for
That's kind of gross.
You know, I think that the perception has shifted and we've grown. You know, I think we realize that all these amenities put together, this one trail is not gonna just put us on the map. It's not gonna do it for us. But it's the collection of trails that we're putting together. And it's all types of trails. It's motorized, it's non-motorized, walking trails. You know, it's access to the rivers, it's access to the lake. We're currently still trying to help the town of Dolores develop breakwater for McPhee Reservoir. And, you know, I think that's a benefit for the town of Mancos too. You may not be a funding partner, you may not see a one-to-one relationship there, but as that whole portfolio, you know, that is important. So we try to make this the best thing that we can possibly market.
What's the vision for where the trail, so it's in the right of way, presumably on the south side of the highway.
Correct.
Out to Mesa Verde. And then as soon as it hits the park property, does it then veer off cross-country to the visitor center? Or is it going to go all the way up to the overpass and then up the driveway?
Yeah, currently, if we're looking at going up to the overpass. There's still a little bit of negotiation that we can do with the Park Service on that. And that's one thing I might mention too, is the Park Service is going to cover their portion of the environmental on their side of the line.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's whether they don't trust the federal agency that they're, I don't know, but anyway, they said they would help with that portion of it. So.
Okay.
So that all works good.
Because our parking lot's not real huge, and if this is gonna be a multi-use, you know, a couple of horse trailers in there, and that parking lot's not gonna be viable for the visitor center. So hopefully they're thinking ahead on that as well.
Well, and, you know, that brings us to another note. You know, when we try really hard to make this trail as open as possible to all user groups, this trail will be open to horseback riders. Whether or not they're really going to want to ride down the highway right away, I don't know. I mean, I don't ride a horse, so I don't know. But I want the town board to know that the county has tried really hard to find other alternatives. If we were not going to be successful at that, we're going to find something else, because we do feel like the equestrian folks in our community have been left out. They've been essentially run over by mountain bikers in a lot of respects. And nothing really wrong with that, you know. We just have to find the right places for them and try to get some more ground open. And I think we've been very successful at that, and we have been able to secure access to all that land that's up there at Summit Reservoir. And the focus for that particular area will be on equestrian use. So hopefully we've been able to, you know, kind of offset that a little bit. We feel at this point as everybody else that the trail is probably not as equestrian friendly as we would have liked it. But I mean, it sort of just is what it is.
Thank you.
I worked some numbers while you guys were talking with regard to the matches. A 20% match, and this includes both the Colorado the Beautiful and the Flat grant. 20% match for the town is $157,330. 30% match, $240,995. 40% match, $314,660. And the 50% is the $393,325. So those are your numbers for, and I can do other ones if you want different percentages.
What was
Like
the
James
30%?
said,
Sorry.
like James said, we feel that we could bring that half down by half with grants and stuff before this project goes into construction and stuff. So you could cut every one of those numbers probably in half if we can get the grant money to.
Well, and this is over 5 years, right?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
It's over 5
It's
years.
over
And
5 years. So if
Cindy?
we did that, just, if we did cut it in half, which is what James thinks we can do, and we split that over 5 years, we're looking at roughly $40,000 a year.
For
Would be our-
50%?
Hmm?
For 50%?
Of that 300, if we took that 393,325 and split it in half, and then put it over 5 years, you're looking at just under $40,000 a year. Would be what we would be on the hook for.
which is way better than our last discussion, which was around 78,000.
But that's assuming that.
That's
it's
assuming-
been
That's
made.
assuming,
So we
yeah,
have
your
to-
worst case scenario.
Yeah, we have to approve it based on worst case scenario and then cross our fingers and hope we get reductions.
And did you ask me, Cindy, the 30% was $240,995? I thought I heard you ask.
Yes, I did, thank you very much.
But I think our thoughts at the county, if we don't get those grants and stuff, I don't feel that we'll go on with the project if we can't get it down where it's a number that everybody can afford. Is that kind of the way we?
You know, I think that's correct. I think our one danger with that is that we do have to spend out that
Right.
CTV money. So there is a danger that we're gonna spend that money out, and then if we don't get any more grants, and we say, this is as far as we can go, that money is gone. And we, you know, out the other end of it, what we should have is 100% design drawing that, you know, we could continue to go looking for more money for. I think the danger in that, though, is that you know how costs go up. We've got something set right now. If we bail on it halfway through and then 10 years come back to the
Right,
table.
it's double cost.
It might be 3 times as high as it is now.
I would say, I would add one more thing to that. You know, if we turn money back in or don't follow through on some of these grants, I mean, there's always a danger that we lose some credibility on that too.
Definitely.
And, you know, we all would be careful of that, because as a community, you know, what one of us winds up kind of screwing up, kind of could, you know, affect all of us. So, I mean, we want to weigh that in, and, you know, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be willing to take risk. Obviously, if you're not willing to take risk, you're going to go nowhere. So there's always that too. But you have to make it a calculated risk, you know. So we totally, from the county, understand where the town is at, and, you know, hopefully the town kind of feels the same way with the county. We're all assuming some risk here, for sure.
James, Justin has a question.
I have a question for you, James.
Yes.
So in the design, have you guys projected how many users could use the trail a day?
Oh.
Or what's it, or have, in the design process, what's the maximum occupancy?
I don't recall ever having maximum occupancy be something we've addressed.
Okay, because from law enforcement perspective, is I'm looking at what it's going to increase my call volume to based on users, because I guarantee you a rancher is going to use that to run the four-wheeler down, and that's going to be a complaint. Transients on the trail, camping will be a complaint. Granted, it's going to be in the county, but we're closest to the Mesa Verde side, so if the county's busy, we're probably going to pick up those calls to help them out. So I was just wondering and I don't know, it's probably too early, and that's probably a premature question, but then that way I can see, because even though the total cost is a match for 5 years, I'm also looking at my budget for the extended life of the trail, and what's that going to increase my budget yearly to. So it'll be interesting, I guess, if you get a chance, or if you ever get those numbers, if you'd shoot me an email, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we can sure ask about that. It is something we've never really thought about. I mean, you can sort of maybe base it off of, you know, extrapolate it off of what maybe some of your visitors, members are, or something like that. Off the top of the head, I don't know how to calculate that, to be honest with you, Justin. I'll have to talk to our consultants to see if we can actually get them.
Okay.
But, you know, you brought up actually what's another really good subject, and something, you know, it's not too soon to start talking about this, because there is some real money on the table finally. And up to this point, you know, this thing, I guess we give it probably less than a 10% chance of ever winning this kind of money. So we thought that there was probably no chance we'd ever be here talking about this today. But, you know, the ongoing maintenance is going to be an issue, you know, and it's something that we're going to have to figure out how we split that up too. Now, again, you know, maintaining a trail is one thing. You know, we're not maintaining like we do a county road where you've got trucks going down and things like that. You virtually have no weight on that trail whatsoever. Obviously, your speeds are not going to be an issue. So, I mean, yes, there's going to be some maintenance. You know, is it going to be like maintaining a road? Probably not exactly like that. But that is something that we should, talk between the town board and the county commissioners and figure out what kind of strategy we'll have for that too. I don't think that's anything insurmountable. I mean, obviously the county, that's one thing we're good at doing is maintaining roads. And obviously as a town, you guys do that too. And I think both parties are pretty good at maintaining roads, really, so.
Rachel, you have a question?
I was just gonna mention that in the Mancos Trails plan, and it actually happened, it called for a group, like a Friends of the Trail type group, and we have that now, and they've been doing all kinds of great trail maintenance, and maybe that could be part of it, is some kind of Friends of the Mesa Verde Trail group or something that would help keep it maintained. Trash-free.
Well, and I think the Mancos Trails group would be interested. I did receive an email from Robert Meyer. He was unable to attend tonight. He's the chair of the Mancos Trails group. They're very interested. So I think that might be, as far as maintenance goes, I think that we might be able to bring them in as a partner when we get to, if we get to discussions like that. I think they would be an excellent resource for maintaining.
And that was kind of a concept that we had from the very beginning on this, is try to get user groups involved as much as possible in maintaining and keeping up those trails. But again, up until this point, we haven't had enough dollars on the table to really say that that's something we need to seriously start addressing yet. So we're at that point though, so it's probably something we should be thinking about. No super pressure on that, but we should think about how we might get that handled.
Yeah, I had a question regarding something you said about the commissioners. You said if we don't get additional grants, that you would probably back out of this. And I'm just wondering, I mean, if we say, okay, it's a 50-50 split and you're in for $351,000, is that something that you're going to consider backing out of if you can't reduce it?
Well, I think we're can get to the point that there would be no backing out of this deal with the grants and everything. But I don't think as a commissioner, and I can only speak for myself,
Sure,
that we're willing to put up $350,000 of taxpayers' money to pay that portion of it. But I do believe that James, I think we can get it down there to where it is feasible for the county to put some tax dollars towards it, and we already have put some. But I think we can get to it.
Yeah, my ultimate goal would be to land at least one more good-sized grant from GOCO. And we got to be careful about that too, because they have a time frame on their grants. We got to make sure we apply for it at the right time to be able to make it land while we're able to spend that money out.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But I mean, given our track record at this point, we've done pretty good at bringing the money in. And I feel pretty darn confident that we will be able to cut that $700,000 figure probably at least in half. So, I mean, I think it's looking good at this point. One other thing, and again, the town board, can negotiate with the commissioners on this, but it may not have to be a 50-50 split. We may do a 50-50 split based on the fact that we're doing good with our grants, or something like maybe some kind of sliding scale or something along those lines. So I guess, I think we just should be, as a community, creative about it and try to do our best to help each other out as we can.
I feel Phil's World has already put us on the map as far as this is, and all this is going to do is enhance that deal there. And right now, like Southwest Memorial Hospital, all of the doctors and the higher-ups in the hospital, they work for Southwest Memorial Hospital under a contract for $250,000 a year. Almost every one of them could double their salaries if they went anywhere else in the world. But they live here because of the mountain biking and Phil's World. They're willing to do that. And like James said, they live in a $750,000 or $1 million home that brings a lot more tax dollars to the community. But you can go to that hospital and every one of those doctors that work over there, they're here for that reason, because of the mountain biking and the trails above Dolores. And this thing will just enhance that.
Well, I feel like this is fostering an ecosystem here of, you know, for the future. And I feel like, you know, again, like we were talking about the relocation guy earlier, you know, if we pony up for this now, instead of 10 years down the road when it's twice as much, you know, I think for us, this is a good way of creating a portfolio for this area that is going to draw more people to this area. It might not be direct tax dollars that we get back right away, but I think in the long run, this is really going to help our town and this area.
Well, I think it would economic development too. I mean, if we pony up to this and those bikers start coming, then maybe we might get a motel that might say, hey, you know, if it's going to start in Mancos, let's put a motel in Mancos and get those bikers here, you know. There's that opportunity
Or
too.
a bike shop.
Or a bike shop, you know. I mean, but again, or a restaurant.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know, to feed those bikers. But you know, again, I think it's a start because down the road, if we don't grow now, 5 years from now, we're not going to be able to grow, and we're going to be stagnated.
Well, a lot of your bikers that go to Moab in the summertime, it's 110 degrees in Moab in the summertime. If we can bring this to Montezuma County, well, would you rather ride your bike here where it's like 7 or 8 degrees, or would you rather go out there?
Here's our motto right now. Write this down, somebody. Montezuma County, like Moab, but cooler.
Yeah. I guarantee you we can pull a lot of those.
Let's get that on a shirt right now.
Like Queenie said, if we get the people coming here, these businesses, they're gonna build motels, they're gonna do this to, how many motels are in Moab because of the bicyclers and the four-wheelers and stuff? There must be 20 motels in that motel.
Easily.
Build it and they will come. That's my motto.
Yeah, I just think that, you know, with this and with the enthusiasm that James has of the possibility of getting grants in the future, and the fact that this isn't even up until 2026, that, you know, we can start looking at some of this stuff now and try to get this going and try to get some funding to bring that number down so that we can work with the county and really, you know, try to make this work. Because I do think that this will be a huge thing for our area.
You've been pretty quiet. Comments?
Not having a good day with all the ifs. I'm on board with the economic development and what could happen. I don't really know what we're being asked for at this point, and I'm hard pressed to put a certain amount of economic burden on future boards. So I don't know, I think we should work for this, I think that's a great idea. But if we're gonna be asked to put a certain dollar figure per year and make a decision on that right now, it's pretty sketchy for me at this point. So if we're going to say, okay, we're gonna put 20 grand a year for the next 5 years in there, I'm all on board. But if we're gonna go back to the $78,000 a year, like we talked about last meeting, then I think we have to have further background and a little more discussion on this, because there's a lot of things that this little town needs besides a bike path. And we can call it all the things that we want, but it's truly a bike path. So when Janice is trying to walk down this trail and she gets run over by a bike, maybe we should start developing, you know, local hospital here. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good things that could come from this, but I don't know what we're being asked for tonight.
Yeah, your comments.
My biggest concern, which Fred brought up, was the committing future boards. I'm 100% behind the project. I think it's a quality of life issue as much as it's an economic situation. You know, the end dollar figure is probably what scares me the most. I mean, I'm not, as Fred said, you know, opposed to saying, you know, we're willing to commit X amount of dollars towards this, but, you know, that X amount of dollars is yet to be determined. And, you know, I mean, if it's a $78,000 a year for 5 years, I'd be a little bit more hesitant than I would be if it was 20 or 30,000 for the next 5 years, without a doubt. That's my opinion.
So we have a dollar amount for the project, and that is the FLAP grant and the Colorado the Beautiful grant. So to clarify for Fred, what we're being asked for is what percentage is the town of Mancos willing to commit to the project. So going back to the figures, so if you as a board want to tell the county commissioners we'll do an 80-20 split, we will be committing $31,466 a year for 5 years. If you want to do the 30%, you would be committing $48,199 a year for 5 years. If you wanted to do the 40%, you would be committing $62,932 a year for 5 years. And if you wanted to do the 50%, you would be committing $78,665 a year for 5 years. That would start in 2026, and we would need to make, if I'm understanding the contracts correctly, we would need to make that commitment sooner rather than later, because otherwise we have to return the funds on those 2 grants.
Right.
And the one grant expires June 30th of 2022. We have to spend all that money by then. So that's where the sooner rather than later decision is coming in, because if you say, I don't want to commit anything or can't come to an agreement with the commissioners, that money's going to be being sent back to those agencies. So I hope that clarifies.
We're using that money as a match for the bigger grants.
Correct.
I hope that clarifies. And these are those worst case scenarios, but I hope that clarifies your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Rachel?
I just had this thought, I was thinking in my mind about when I once went to go buy a car and the salesman was like, well, what do you want your payments to be? And I was like, what's the price of the car? But what if, could you start a fund and start paying into it now? That would, you know, make it less per year. That's my thought.
Denise, your comments?
Well, I agree with Ed that I think this is about helping communities as much as it is bringing in, you know, tourist dollars. I think a healthy community is worth a lot. So I think that if we propose to do like a 20%, and is that something then that you take to the commissioners and that's either accepted or it's not? Is that how that's gonna go?
Right, yeah, I think that's the negotiation with the
Yeah.
commissioners.
Yeah.
And we probably need to
You
have
know,
another
it
board
was
of board.
I
31,000.
think we're gonna have to have another board either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
But I think somewhere around that 20% is what we can afford. I mean, again, we're only talking about a mile in Mancos, the rest of it's the county, so, I mean.
But the money's not even going to the part in Mancos.
Yeah, so I think, but I want to be a team player. I mean, I want our town to be part of this too. But we have to be more on the low end. That's.
And we totally understand that.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, from our perspective, you know, it would really help the town out. This is the way we see it. And we have.
The municipalities are gonna benefit more from this than the county is gonna benefit from it.
Not if
We see no tax dollars or
well,
anything.
not if somebody moves here.
If somebody moves here, yes, that's.
I'm saying,
that's
that
the big
whole
thing.
premise of this really doesn't affect us as the county is
Right.
to
Well,
me, if we're talking about building a portfolio here for
the
the entire
tourism part of
area.
it is what's gonna.
The tourism part I get, but as has been brought up in our agenda here in the packet and in previous meeting, that this has no benefit to the county.
No, I agree, it'll have some benefit to the county.
That to me is, you know, it just speak of just saying, you know, we want you guys to pay more of this because it's gonna help your tax dollars better. But if majority of the people are gonna move out into the county here, it's gonna help you guys just as much. So I don't wanna hear that part of it really anymore in this discussion.
Well, and there's not a lot of, you know, unless there's a lot of building in Mancos.
Right, well, we have a finite area
Right.
here
Very limited.
for people to move to this area right now, and, you know, the county has a lot more space to build in, and, you know, so that part of it is, you know, I think a moot point really at this point, of how much it's gonna affect us and how much it's gonna affect the county. It's gonna benefit all of us. It's gonna benefit everyone in this area. Same with the breakwater situation up there. It's gonna help us in the long run, but it's gonna help the county just as much. So, you know, that point I wanna make, because that's been brought up 2 or 3 times now in this situation, and I just think it's a falsehood.
Right, I totally agree with that.
Cindy?
Yeah, I do too. I think that was a really good way of putting it, Brent, and that's why I keep, you know, trying to point out, this is a community project. And yeah, you know, I mean, we got, you know, there's an imaginary line in the ground and stuff, you know, but I don't know, in my mind, we just gotta collectively figure out how we're gonna get this done together. Because it really doesn't just benefit all of us, you know. And again, you can't, I don't think anyone should be trying to put a dollar for dollar kind of a return on this type of project. Because as Mr. Hallam has pointed out, in a lot of ways, this is as much about having a livable community as it is anything else, and that's a part of your portfolio too, so.
Is Murray National Park putting any in towards us?
I'm sorry?
Is the park putting any?
Yeah, he said that they're paying for the environmental.
Right, so they'll cover the environmental stuff on there, and the way that, I have asked the park about that, and the BLM, the way the park kind of sees it is that, you know, the dollars that the CFL, Central Federal Lands, allocates out to each one of these parks, some of it has to go to multimodal projects, and so this is what they see as their contribution to it. So, in a sense, they have essentially brought us 4.7 million to the table, you know, in a way.
Yeah.
Cindy, I haven't heard from you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm kind of in agreement with several things that people have said, and so I'm piecing all this together. I'm leaning personally toward, yes, I want this to go forward because I think it is a great thing for our community, and I want to be part of building something really awesome for the next 100 years or more. I'm leaning toward maybe we can handle 30%, and I like Rachel's idea of, even though we don't have to start putting it away until 2026, if we start now, we're spreading whatever amount we come up with over
10 years.
8 or 9 years,
Yeah.
you know, because we're already in 2021. So we're spreading it over 9 years, which is a more palatable payment per year, I think. And then we're also dealing with at least the front end loading of that fund or line item or whatever.
We're not putting it totally to the next.
So
Yeah.
in our budget, can we do that? I know we had talked about doing a line item for like equipment purchases and things. Can we, with our auditor, open an account, you know, line item and start putting money in that out of our budget?
You can absolutely earmark funds. You can absolutely earmark our reserves. Most of our general fund reserves are unrestricted anyway.
Okay.
So as part of the budget process each year, you can absolutely earmark funds from our reserves to say this amount is earmarked for this, leave it there.
Okay.
Yes, you can do that
Just
legally.
wondering, should we could do that? From Betsy yet. So let me hear from Betsy and then hear Fred is trying to let everybody talk.
You're good.
Betsy.
Okay, my mind is swirling around, but one of the things that Fred really started with was committing future boards. And in a sense, I think that's a big part of our job, is to have the foresight, you know, to look at the future for the town, and then that forces us to commit future boards in a sense. So I don't feel so bad about that. I also feel like, although I agree with Brent that, you know, it's, the value is not, exponentially more for Mancos than it is for the county, but I would like to see us do more, maybe 30%, maybe. I think we have close to 10 years to put some money, earmark some money, and I think the more we can be a partner with the county, I think that really goes to our benefit long term. And I think it's a great thing for the county. I think it's a, when I first heard that, I wasn't so sure it was a great thing for Mancos, but I'm starting to feel more like that all the time, and I think we should be partners and we should go for it. And I think if the commissioners are kind of queasy about it, then our enthusiasm and our commitment, you know, should help make that happen.
You know, and maybe if we say, okay, we can do 30, and let's say next year or the year after that, make us booms, then we can say, hey, you know, we've had some changes, now we want to go 50 now, we can, you know, go up, you know, but not limit ourselves to now, and then our future boards, you know, maybe say, okay, we're better off. And, you know, Queenie and her dumb board just said 30, but we're gonna bump it to 50, you know, because they could do that.
Yeah, I think you should stay out of negotiations.
Yeah. I second.
No, because there are times when we have questioned what other boards have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've gone back and we've fought, and we've won some battles and we've lost some battles. But again, you know, if things boom, we need to think about that. But we need to start right now and hoping that it will, and this might give us the chance to boom. So, Fred, do you want to say other than tell me that? Stay out of the negotiations?
You know, I think it's a great project, and I would like to see it come to pass. Part of the skepticism, and I can only speak for myself, is that since I've been on the board, pretty much anything east of the park has been ignored by the county level. So these promises and all of the stuff that could happen, I had to take a step back and go, okay, I would love to see it, and I hope it does, but history is pretty sketchy along these lines.
That's why we have Joel here as our Mancos rep.
And I will say,
That's a step in the right
that's
direction.
It is. A huge step.
our rep, and now we've got Joe here at every meeting,
Right.
so that's a
Yep.
start.
So,
I don't know what that means.
so we're not trying to beat you up. It's just that it's like, it's Christmas. Well, we haven't had Christmas for the years I've been on the board. So, you know.
Yeah.
And Rich, you have a comment?
Well, and just kind of going with what Rachel said earlier, you know, if we start saving for it now, and we spread this out over like 9 years, we're only looking at about a $26,000 commitment at the 30%. You know, each year that we can start putting away so we can spread it out. You know, I think that's a smart way of doing it, so that, you know, when it does come time for another board here, part of it's already there. You know, we put away
Pre-committed.
We pre-committed, but we also put away something for them, so that it's not such a hit for them either. It's kind of the best of both worlds for that.
And just remember, James is gonna cut that in half, so
Exactly.
all that money that's in the account, we're gonna be able to take some back.
Yes, exactly.
The ball is in your court.
Okay, so, Justin, you were commenting to Terry over there. Comments you want to share with us?
It's a good project. The board discussion's pretty funny tonight.
Okay.
But, you know, it's ultimately what you guys in the county decide to do, and at the end of the day, Terry and I are the employees of the town, and at some point, we're just gonna have to deal with the new norm with traffic flow and everything else as law enforcement and public works director.
Well, but we we would like to hear your input too, because, you know, yes, our comments, and it is funny, but, you know, sometimes you guys have very, very good input that we need to know, we need to hear them, so we would like to hear and know what you're thinking, and so, Terry, you got something?
Well, I think it's a great project, but money-wise, you guys need to keep in mind that we have aging sewer lines, aging water lines, our public works equipment is getting old, and someday I think the town would like sidewalks and paved streets. But other than that, it's a good project.
Would you put your mask back on?
Thank you, Terry.
So Terry, so what you're saying is that that we should keep money aside for all the projects that you just also said, that maybe this is foo-foo, and what you're saying is...
No, I think the trail is a good project. But, I mean, all these different deals that we're spending money on, our water lines, our sewer lines, are just aging in time,
Okay.
is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't those the water and sewer funds?
They're enterprise funds.
They are the water and sewer funds, however, the equipment that we need to fix those, like he was talking about, sidewalks, streets, that's this fund.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying,
Bridge.
but to mention all those together in one, it's not one fund though.
No.
That we
No,
can
water and
only use
sewer.
the enterprise for.
Water and
Water and
sewer
sewer.
lines are water and sewer,
Right.
but the equipment to fix them is general
Yeah.
fund.
Right.
But did we not put it in our budget, a special line to put money back for equipment?
We have one this year.
Okay, so I know we had talked about doing that a couple of years ago. And I was
Right.
hoping
Which
we-
started that.
Well, and we have one this year, but I mean, it's a great project, please don't get me wrong, but I hear what they're saying.
Oh,
Because we do, you know, we have a
We do too.
5-year capital plan that we,
Yeah.
Right.
so I hear what Terry's saying, and I do agree with that. So we'll just have to figure out, like I said, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last month, or last meeting. Whatever you guys agree to, staff will, during the budget process each year, say, here's what you guys have committed to. Here's what we're taking out of the capital
Yeah.
plan. Do you know what I mean?
And I think that's
So-
the balancing act, you know, maintaining what we have and then planning and leading into the future.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, yeah, really valid points, you know, we have to remember that, yes, we have a certain amount of maintenance and replacement to do for basic town services. But I think we also have a responsibility, as was mentioned over there, to lead into the future, and I just think this would be a really spectacular thing.
So kind of what I'm gathering is we want Heather to maybe, I don't know, do you need a motion, Heather, for us to tell you to negotiate with the county on the 70-30 split, or?
I don't necessarily think I need a motion. I think that we can, you know, the minutes can reflect that after discussion. The board consensus was that Mancos will contribute 30% towards the project, and we'll, you know, it'll be presented to the county commissioners, because basically what I'll do is I'm gonna email Shaq. And then we'll figure out how to go from there, because James is correct in that once we've agreed, there does need to be some type of agreement. There needs, and that will come back to you guys. That's when we'll need the motion, the second, and the roll call vote. So, yes.
And you know, once we speak to the commissioners and give them what we said, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to having another board-to-board with them down the line to discuss this matter further too.
So do you want to present to them and then get their feedback and then have a board-to-board, or do you want to schedule a board-to-board?
I think we should present to them first, and then that way they have the information.
Okay.
And then we can kind of all get back together and negotiate on it too.
Okay. So I'll email Shaq based on the discussion, and I'm sure James and Joel will take it back, and just say, hey, here was the consensus. Put it to the commissioners. If you feel the need for another joint workshop, we can have one, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And you guys, 30% is the consensus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay,
That's it. So-
all right.
All right.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Great work.
This has been the most interaction I've had in like a year.
It's like a party, there's even cutouts, actually.
I may get to talk to you all some more tonight too, about another subject.
Oh, no, that's what I said. Commissioners agree, we're gonna.
Okay, moving right along. Next is the motorized vehicles on public lands discussion.
Now we go the opposite direction.
So I'll go a little bit on, because I got this email, and she wanted me to respond immediately on it. I don't take responses without talking to anybody, so as soon as they have it, and we'll bring it to you guys, that you see if you're willing to discuss it, or if you want to just table it, or do table it for the next meeting, or whatever. It's not something that has to be answered right away, or it's just to talk about.
Well, that's a huge, big discussion there is what, what's being presented here in the grand scheme versus, they're talking one small trail. I've seen an impact of motorized vehicles in what I consider a negative state in the public lanes, of course. There's a lot that are not obeying the signage and the rules, so that takes it away. But it's not just them, the mountain bikers are doing the same, and the horses, they go off trail too. Horses don't tend to make that impact. But it's something that I think collectively, the whole community needs to take a look at how much expansion and how much developed trails of all aspects we want. The path to Mesa Verde is just a trail, but it's not a motorized trail. This one's referencing a motorized trail. We've talked about, Joel brought up the fact that they're looking at Summit for a horse trail. It kind of becomes a global discussion with I think all entities in the county to kind of look at what is it that we feel we need to do or what we need to limit.
Anybody else have any comments on this?
Well, I backtracked from the article and went into the newspaper, and then I saw the map that goes with your resolution. And there's a lot of yellow trails up there that the county wants to take back. So I think it's just a huge discussion.
Yeah, I think all entities.
And the other thing that I thought about was, we're talking about having, doing a plan around our watershed. And to me, there was some overlap there. If there's going to be a lot of motorized vehicles in and around the watershed, it's a big conversation.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Creating more erosion and
Yeah.
possibly affecting our water, yeah.
Can we talk to you about the RS-2477 a little bit before you, because that's just kind of, I think, where you're headed with this,
Yeah.
is the county's, you want to explain that a little bit? Because
He just wants to talk about
Interaction.
Because the intent of the RS-2477 is not to open up all of these trails. All it is to secure the right-of-ways so that they don't take them away from us. I would say 99% of those trails are going to be left primitive. It's just the fact that they were a public right-of-way at one time, and we would like to try to keep them that way. And then there's nothing that says we're going to open all these.
And I think that's part of the scare people have. They don't have the education.
They don't have the education of what the deal actually does.
So before we launch into this, is there anything about opening up some or all of the trails of motorized use?
I'll kind of explain the whole thing as we
Okay.
take a look at these maps. The first thing I want to point out, if you look at the first map, page 1, you'll see that there are a lot of blue lines, and you'll see that there are two colors of green there. That darker green is all what the Forest Service at one point had designated as an F area. Okay, so an F area meant that you could take a motorized vehicle anywhere within that area, on the trail, off the trail, anywhere. So that's what we had as of, I want to say that 2005, when that map was. And so as you can see, that area, that was a lot of the ground that they were on taking. The blue lines that are on that map are all the open roads that came from the Forest Service layer. So those are roads that are standard roads, roads that you can drive, the standard vehicle on. Those are all already open roads, and those are roads that are open currently. Those roads were also open at the time the F area was in place. If you go to map number 2, when the federal agencies implemented the travel rule, you can see that that green area is gone. So everywhere that you used to be able to take a motorized vehicle off of those routes and go cross country, you can no longer do that now at this point. So the Forest Service, through, I think it was the 2010, I think is maybe the date on that. Don't hold me to that, but that's when that travel rule was promulgated and implemented, and at that point, then all cross-country motorized travel ceased and everything was to a designated route only. So the second page that you're looking at right now, you'll see that the dark green area is gone. You'll see that all the blue roads remain there. And you also see that some of those roads also have a yellow highlight on them. The yellow highlight is the roads that we've done research on and have determined that those routes, and I'm going to call them routes because some of these are actually trails, some of them are actually 2-track. So I'm just going to call them routes. And really what I was trying to do, what the county was trying to do, was identify public right-of-way. And right-of-way may or may not even have a developed road on it. So that's kind of a distinction in itself right there. So the yellow routes that you see on this map are roads that through research we've determined are the oldest routes up in the forest. Those look like the first roads that came into play. You'll notice that some of those routes don't have a yellow or don't have a blue line underneath them. And for example, one of them that comes down over there by Summit Reservoir, you'll see it just a yellow line, and there's no blue underneath it. What that actually is an old stock driveway. Okay, so there wasn't actually a road associated with it, although at one time that stock driveway was open to motorized use. And in fact, there's a huge amount of research that's been done. Fort Lewis actually did a substantial amount of research on that particular stock driveway. And at one time, it was primarily sheep that they were moving up and down that stock driveway. And at the time, they were using motorized vehicles to push those sheep and carry their equipment over the trail and stuff like that. So that has landed on the map. But you'll also notice that there are a lot of blue roads on that map that haven't got a yellow highlight on it. So those roads are roads that developed sometime after the turn of the century. We think those roads came in later. So essentially all we tried to do here is inventory the roads that we think are the old roads. Part of the purpose is to negotiate with the Forest Service when they go through the travel management plan. And they say, oh, we want to close, this road or that road. If we've already told them that this is what we think is a historic road, it's important to our community, this is one that we ought to have some negotiation on. That's kind of the point of this. Now I haven't got any of the BLM stuff on this, but I did want to address that out in Canyons of the Ancients because this is a real significant issue out there. The last page I want to point you to is the establishment of the National Landscape Conservation System. Okay, so Canyons of the Ancients is part of the National Landscape Conservation System. So if we look down under B, components of that system, so each area is designated as a national monument. That's correct, it is a national monument. It's not yet a national conservation area. There may be some discussion coming up on that. A wilderness study area. Yes, within Canyons of the Ancient, there are actually 3 wilderness study areas. A National Scenic Trail or National Historic Trail designated as a component of the National Trail System. Now we're getting to part of what our inventory was supposed to do. This is supposed to be providing information to the BLM on what we think the historic rights-of-way are out there Now, where the rubber really hits the road on this kind of stuff, and why this is important, we felt like it was important to do some of this mapping, is that, I think all of you are probably familiar with Cannonball Mesa, for example. Okay, when you leave County Road G, and you go through that gate, and you cross that land, and you get up to the top of that hill, what most of us don't realize is we're traveling on over a mile of private property. And the BLM has no easement for that property, no easement for that access at all. In fact, all the way around that monument, almost every time you have access to that monument, you go across private land for it. But the BLM holds no easements for that at all. And so part of this process is to identify what the historic routes are, because we may get a situation at some point where property could change hands. And while, for all these years, we've been able to access that land across private property, a new private landowner could get out there and say, hey, I don't want this to happen anymore. And they've probably got some legal grounds to challenge us on that. Although we feel like establishing that this has been a road and it's been a route that's been in existence and open to the public for probably in excess of 100 years is also our legal avenue to refute that. And so the BLM has been surprisingly supportive of going through this process. Now, they get a little bit nervous when we're out in the middle of Cannon and we're saying, oh, this road and that road, we think these are significant roads. Well, they get a little nervous, yet at the same time, they also see the value of doing this type of mapping. So right now, the BLM has been working with us very well on this. We're going through ongoing negotiations with them to identify which routes are the most important routes. That Cannonball Mesa Road, for example, that's a top priority route for both the county as well as the BLM. Because if we lose that route, all we have left as far as the south side access to Cannon is Sand Canyon. And so, for the public and their ongoing access, we think this is pretty important, and the BLM does too. They cannot, the BLM, any of the federal agencies cannot carry forward an RS 2477 claim on their own. Therefore, they need support from a local government to be able to do that. So I don't think there's any intention of going out there and creating new trails. I don't think any of the trails that have been identified are new trails, anything like that. And of course, there is the ongoing issue of who's currently managing these trails. And just because we make an assertion and say that we think this is an old historic public right-of-way, doesn't necessarily automatically transfer the jurisdiction over to the county. That's something we'd have to go through court, likely go through court. Not necessarily. And again, if we all come to an agreement on a particular road, we may not have to go to court over something like that. And that's hopefully, the outcome, because none of us really want to go to court to prolong any of these discussions. And certainly the only ones that went out of that are attorneys, so, not that they're not doing their part, and they deserve their fair share too. The service that they provide.
Good cover.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to give you a lift there.
So is the county prepared to take on that kind of maintenance of trails? I mean, that's a huge system.
Well, that's the thing, we'll leave them primitive. There's no maintenance to 90-some% of these trails.
Okay.
It will just establish the right of way, but they'll still be left as primitive roads. There'll be no maintenance.
Okay.
Justin?
Yeah. And in fact, some of these right-of-ways don't even have a route that's distinguishable.
Yeah.
It probably never will be.
Yeah.
James, I got a question on those yellow roads that don't have any blue underline north of Summit Lake. Those are also historic fire egress for the community up there because they're one way in, one way out.
Right.
And from my experience with the county, that's been a real point of contention as those have been blocked, is when we do something like that, because if we have a fire up there, they're going to be displaced most likely in the Mancos. So how do we get those residents back to Mancos if those roads are shut down?
Well, so actually, I don't think any of these roads are shut down.
The 37 one is. It's landowner dug it up.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, that was a red road. yeah, so there are probably a couple exceptions here on this. Yeah, and so that is, you know, we assert that that's an old historic right-of-way, but we have not gone through any negotiations with that landowner on this at this time. Yeah, and again, it's on the map. I mean, we can at some point go try to prove that up if we choose to do so.
Okay.
The court case on County Road 441, south of Mancos, and this is kind of off track, but that was an old historic road. Did that ever get fixed or decided, or?
Well, you know, did John give the commissioners a recent update on that?
He didn't, but we're in, I think we're in court with it right now.
With the test pits.
I know that they went down there and they surveyed the right of way,
Right.
and got all of that done and everything. And it's been a county road for
Well, and before that, it was,
long before.
I think it was before that, right away down to the Jeep drive down that way.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's still open, yeah, it's just fenced.
Right. We wrote a letter of support, I think, for the county a couple of years ago now. I don't know, it's where.
So what I know about it so far is it sounds like we've got past the point where they've been able to challenge us on being a public right-of-way. We feel like that's settled, that it is a public right-of-way. Right now, the sticking point is on the width of that right-of-way.
Okay.
We are maintaining that 60 foot as per, you know, what's been accepted statewide. They're arguing that it's something less than that, like as narrow as say 12 foot, which would make maintenance obviously impossible.
Or a fire truck having to turn around or.
Right, yeah. You know what, that is a very good case study for why we've done this mapping. And that's a good example, that road down there. We haven't gone to that level to take that to an RS 2477 level, but we feel very confident that we've got all the proof necessary to say that's a 2477. The difficulty with 2477 is when you go out and you take this to court and it comes out the other end of court not in your favor and not being a 2477, it looks like that pretty well extinguishes your argument. And so we didn't want to take that approach down on that road unless it was the last ditch effort.
So in terms of the item on our agenda, it kind of sounds like the reply would be, you go talk to James. I mean, to be honest, that's a lot of detail.
But you know what, my door is open at all times, and you know, if Ms. Wheeler would like to come in and visit, I'd sit down and go over this with her and you know, try to explain to her exactly where the commissioners are coming from, and
Yeah.
you bet, my door's open.
And it's just education.
Well, yeah, because it isn't our project, it's not in our jurisdiction. We don't really have any dog in the hunt, I guess, other than community-wide thought process. But I think for her to get real information, she really does need to talk to you because you're the one doing all the work. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And again, that you know, that offer is open to anybody in the town, anybody in the community. That, you know, I've always got an open door policy, so
yeah.
Do my best to work through and explain it to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again.
So would you
You
like
have to
to?
let James come explain it. I've learned as much tonight as you folks have, because I'm new at all of these projects, so I've learned as much as you have.
So would the board like me to respond to, sorry, James, but would you like me to respond to Ms. Wheeler with James's? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
James'
Refer
phone number
her
and email.
to James.
And maybe a Google map to his door.
But there's no intentions of going up here and taking the old railroad tracks and right-of-ways and making four-wheeler trails out of them and that. That's not the intent of this at all.
Yeah, if we can get the galloping goose going between Mancos and Dolores.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, get the easements for us.
Yeah.
You know, and that's always the difficulty.
Yeah.
Now, if we have willing landowners, I'm sure that's a project that Joel would be happy to.
Yeah.
Let's get through the path of Mesa Verde.
I think Crusher Fine is expensive. Railroad.
Okay, moving right along, we have the Water Solutions LLC for ORC contract. Is that it?
Yes, So currently, Water Solutions LLC is Chris Kramer, and he is our operator and responsible charge for the wastewater treatment plant because he holds a B license, and that's required by the state. Our water plant, and you may remember, has been reclassified to an A plant instead of a B plant. Our current staff, Robin holds a B license. He is the current operator and responsible charge, but Chris holds actually A licenses for both water and sewer. So we're asking that we can amend the current contract with Chris Kramer to name him as the operator and responsible charge for the water plant as well, due to the reclassification. And at the same time, he's agreed to do some extra stuff for us with regard to reporting. We will still do like the daily monitoring and that kind of thing, but like, for example, the wastewater treatment plant, we used to write everything down and email it to the state, and now they're requiring what they call net DMR reporting. It's all automated, and Chris knows how to do all of that, and same thing with the water plant. So things are changing, and with his licensing, he's stayed up on that. So our staff is still going to do the day-to-day. They're going to do the sampling, they're going to complete the preliminary reports and that kind of thing, but Chris is also going to start doing more of the monthly reporting to the state on our behalf as well. And then once the new plant is up and running and we've got that new SCADA system and stuff, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot easier for us. But at this point, we're just wanting to amend his contract so he can be the ORC, or the operator responsible charge, for the water plant as well. Yes.
I'm sorry, maybe I should know this, but I don't. Is Mr. Kramer an employee?
No, he's an independent contractor. Yes, so that's why I gave you a draft independent contractor form, because he will be an independent contractor, not a staff member, because he owns his own business.
Okay.
And I do want to say at the same time, Terry and his guys are in the plant. They're taking their licensing tests. They're doing their training units. We're working towards that, but it takes 5 to 6 years of full-time plant work to get your B license. So we're lucky to have Chris. He's the ORC for us. He's the ORC for Dove Creek, for Dolores, for Durango West, or one of the Durangos over there. So he's just like the guy. He used to work for the town, and then he started his own business. He's been involved with this for 30 years. Yeah, and now we contract with him. So, and the only thing I would at this point is on the first page. Excuse me. I don't know why I had the contract start March 11th. We'll propose that it starts April 1st. So, but yeah. So.
I have a question. What's the need for firearm?
Where's the firearm? Did I?
C. ABC.
Right under where you put mark.
Oh, this is our standard contract, and it's just a template. So we just, if it's necessary for the job, basically, the contractor provides it, not the town. So I could take out firearms, I guess, in this particular one, if you'd like me to. It doesn't.
Just seems a little odd to me.
Maybe you should fish in a barrel, I don't know.
Yeah.
For the water plant.
Maybe
Yeah.
they've been fighting fire.
Water for fighting.
Yeah. You know what? I'll just take that out. We'll just take it out.
So what does Terry think? Is this good for you and your crew?
Yes. It's an absolute necessity for the town to exist.
I mean, it's either that or we shut the plant down.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In the meantime, this crew is taking their tests and things, but it's going to take them 5 years to get their B license, and we have to have an A license.
Yeah,
Because we do that.
And if you guys have seen the stuff that's swimming around in the lagoons, you'd want a firearm.
That was moving.
They caught a dog in there.
Yeah, I think I'd put firearms in there.
I'd leave it in there, you never know.
Yeah, we don't want to have to issue them a gun.
We've certainly had water issues.
Any other comments? And I would entertain a motion.
I move we authorize the town administrator to execute the amended contract with Water Solutions LLC for water and wastewater plant operations.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Cindy Simpson and a second by trustee Ed Fallon to authorize the town administrator to execute the amended contract with Water Solutions LLC for water and wastewater plant operations. I'd like to call the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Janice Bryan.
Aye.
Trustee Betsy Harrison.
Aye.
Trustee Brett McWhorter.
Aye.
Trustee Cindy Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Ed Hallen.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Moving right along, the next one is the 2020 Public Park Program.
You know what, actually, I was gonna ask, based on our conversation tonight and some finances and some bridge, the next item on the agenda, can we table this to maybe the first meeting in April to give me time to get our first quarter financials done?
Sure.
I've talked to the auditor on each individual topic,
Do you want
but
to
I'd like to do,
May?
well, we usually advertise in May, so if we can table this until an April meeting, I'll have time to do first quarter financials. Because what I really would like to do is now a new draft budget for 2021. So can we table this one? Okay.
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
Table.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the Main Street Bridge Construction Contract Award.
Yes, and
This was money.
yeah, I put one in front of everybody. So, we received 2 bids for this project. The lowest responsible bidder for construction, $1,728,019. I reached out to CDOT and DOLA. There is no additional funding available under our current, nobody has any money, basically. We have been really, really good the last few years, so this is going to hurt. However, we will, however, it'll probably take, and I don't have our 2020 financials yet, so I talked to the auditor and we kind of spitballed some numbers, so I apologize, I don't have exact numbers, but this will probably take our fund balance down $1.2 million. So that's not, we're still healthy, we're still in compliance, and I think 2015 or 2013 or something, we got down to like an $800,000 fund balance. That, I am conservative, that makes me nervous. So we also don't have a choice on this project. I included a budget for you guys. The original budget to now, 6 years later, is double, and we can't wait. I also included the most recent bridge inspection, so you can see that it's been downgraded from a blue to a green. It has to be done within the next 12 months. So it needs to be done, and I do think that if we can afford it now, which is why I want to kind of come back to you guys in April, because I think we're going to need to continue to be fiscally conservative in our general fund for the next few years to build our reserves back up, so that if we have a big project or an emergency or something happens, we have the funding available. Because our cash match is going from $250,000 to $820,000 on this project.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we know, like, they're an acceptable bidder?
They absolutely
actually
are.
can and know how to build a bridge?
They have been, and they're actually already, CDOT has like their pre-approved, whatever, they're on that list. And I included the information. I sent the request to CDOT for concurrence as well. I'm just kind of running the project, so I sent the request to CDOT for concurrence, so I included that information for you guys tonight. It's D&L Construction. They've done a phenomenal job for us. They are our engineer today on the water plant said, D&L's the gold standard. They love working with them. It's a different engineering firm, but they have a great reputation. They did our pedestrian crossing. And they're local, they're Cortez.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so, I just don't know how we can put this off.
Oh,
I also asked CDOT, and because again, not super familiar with every detail of their policies and procedures, but I also asked them, can I negotiate? And they said, no, you cannot negotiate. You must award the contract amount, and then you can negotiate scope. But, so I'm going to try it. It's Dave and Lana Waters. They're amazing. They do great stuff for us. So I'll try and see what happens. And I'm hopeful that we can get this down a little bit. I don't know. But I'm hopeful that we can, get it a little bit less. But again, worst case scenario, this is what we're looking at.
Any questions?
I guess my question is more of the citizens' concerns about when this would start. Did they give any kind of time frame when?
I hesitate because in November, they said, oh yeah, in 2 weeks you'll have your notice to advertise. And then we got it in January. So I did ask them, they said, oh yeah, we should be able to turn around in under a week. So, I don't know. I've not seen that quick of a turnaround,
Right.
but I'm hopeful that in a week or so.
I think last night we talked about starting April 1st.
Yes. Yeah, that's why we need them to turn it around.
Yeah.
And,
so there's no holding it till November?
No, there's absolutely no way we can put this off again because outside of all of the renegotiate and that kind of thing, the essential repair letter, it has to be done by November.
Okay.
So,
and that's pretty clear to our citizens?
I hope I made that clear last night that we're not delaying the project.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to listen and hear them, but we can't.
We can't
delay.
we're supposed to do this separate.
Well, and last year, our hope was to try to do it in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But it just didn't happen because we had all these hoops to jump through with CDOT. And I just feel like we cannot put this off anymore.
And it wasn't necessarily CDOT that delayed this project. I don't know if you remember, we had some issues with right-of-way acquisition.
Yeah.
So with right-of-way acquisition.
But it was the fact that was brought up last minute from
Yes,
them.
yes.
That
So,
kind of brought a
yeah.
wrench into the program.
So I hope that I made it clear. I think I did. But we can't delay it. We just can't. And like I said, I'm unable to find any other funding sources. Robert Shanks, our CDOT engineer, he's amazing. He's so responsive to me. He's my contact, and then he goes up his chain, I come to you, so he's, I sent this information to him today as well, and he was gonna turn it around quickly for me as well. So I just don't see that we have any option. And 820,000 makes me incredibly nervous.
Yeah.
But we've been very conservative the last few years because we didn't know what these were gonna come in and look like. So I don't know, and that's, in April, I have, maybe we can come up with, I've got some suggestions to maybe come up with 70,000 that we can cut this year, and if we can get this a little bit lower with the contractor, I don't know. But we have to do it. So.
Do you have the traffic control plan made?
We're going to use the MHT itself, or I've got the traffic control plans, like it specs in the plans online. And then I do have, Jim Horn, our engineer, has somebody who's going to draft the MHT for us.
Okay.
And then Terry and Wes are actually, I have paperwork on my desk, we have to sign it, but we got the yellow forms, so they're now actually TCS certified.
Okay.
So we're going to be handling that ourselves based on the approved plans.
Yeah, because some of the concern, the reason I bring it up is some of the concerns tonight were, hey, control this intersection, control that. And I'm not entirely sure it's germane to the actual project area.
Well, and we
So-
also let people know, the plans are online, it includes traffic control. And I know a couple of them last night were, have looked at them and stuff, so
Okay,
we'll just follow what CDOT's approved.
yeah,
We had to agree to that in order to allow
Right.
us to do traffic control, which saved us $83,000.
yeah.
So we'll do what we can, but
There's an impact, and you just gotta grin and bear it.
yeah, and like I said, I hear them, and it does, trust me, I wish there was something we could do, but it is 120 days for 100 years.
Right.
And we
Well,
just,
Well, we hope.
Yeah.
I heard from a few people the last week or so in town, well, we didn't know about this, and look at our road. We can only include people in the process of this if they're willing to step up and be a part of it too. And I said that to the citizens. I said, I've been on the board for 3 years. I've only had maybe a couple of meetings where we've had more than 2 people in this room to be involved in this, in any of these discussions. And we've done everything we can to involve the community as much as we can, other than going door to door, which is what they want us to do. And we're not going to do that. We don't have the staff to do that. And, it's just not what government's supposed to do.
well, and specific to this project, we've done a couple of press releases. I mean, we haven't done like every quarter for the last 3 years, but we have done several press releases over the lifetime of the project.
Yeah,
And
but
everyone in town knows that we gotta put a new bridge in. There isn't one person in this town that doesn't know it.
Well, people will say that though, because
Yeah.
they came up to me and said, I just heard about this the other day, and I'm like, we've been working on this for 6 years.
I was gonna say, it's been discussion forever.
Well, here's the thing, I mean, it's required that we replace it.
Yes.
It's not.
There's
like
no
we're just,
choice.
Oh, let's replace a bridge.
What really feels good is let's spend $800,000 on a new bridge just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got my vote.
Still think we should make it out of concrete Legos, but.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion.
I move we award the construction contract for the Main Street Bridge Replacement Project to David Land and Waters Incorporated, DBA DNL Construction, and authorize the town administrator to execute the contract.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Graham McWhorter and a second by trustee Cindy Simpson to award the construction contract for the Main Street Bridge Replacement Project to David Land and Waters, Inc., DBA DNL Construction, and authorize the town administrator to execute the contract. Heather, would you call the vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Janice Bryan.
Aye.
Trustee Betsy Harrison.
Aye.
Trustee Brent McWhorter.
Aye.
Trustee Cindy Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Ed Hallam.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Yay, we're getting a new bridge. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the items for the March 24th. That's to be determined at this time, or should we cover it?
I do have one item, which is the Columbine Inc. liquor license transfer of ownership.
Nope.
New 86 list.
And I needed to ask you guys, I wanted to ask you guys, we have a special meeting on Friday. Our town attorney will be in court all day, so does 5:30 on Friday evening work for you guys?
Gotta bring beer.
This Friday, correct?
Tomorrow, day after tomorrow.
So that's the 12th.
Okay.
At 5:30?
So we'll come here and we'll call David from here.
And then the IGA.
Oh, and it's not called dispatch, it's called the Cortez Communications Center, IGA, with the marshal's office.
And again, I'm just hearing some great things about your office and your officers. Lots of good comments. I like them. That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second. Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned.
Second.
Figured I could have got